Elara lived in the heart of a whisperwood willow, a tree so ancient its roots remembered the first star that sang. Her home wasn't grand, but it was warm with hearth glow and scented with dried herbs and the faint, sweet memory of honey cakes. Tonight, like every night, her grandmother, Nana Elara, sat by the low-burning fire, her fingers deftly weaving moonlight-spun thread into what looked like a blanket of captured dreams. "Time for sleep, little star," Nana Elara murmured, her voice a soft rustle, like leaves in a gentle breeze. "The night-bloom flowers are unfurling their petals, and the moon moths are beginning their dance." Elara, already tucked into her bed of moss and dandelion fluff, pulled her hand-stitched quilt up to her chin. Through the round window, carved into the willow's trunk, she could see the world outside turning from twilight violet to indigo velvet. The first stars, sharp as scattered diamonds, pricked the darkening sky. "But Nana," Elara whispered, her eyes wide, "the night blooms. They don't seem as bright tonight, and I haven't heard the moon moth's song." Nana Elara paused her weaving, her wise, crinkled eyes meeting Elara's. A faint sigh, like the wind through autumn grasses, escaped her lips. "You always notice the quietest things, my heart. Perhaps they are simply shy tonight." Elara wasn't convinced. She spent her days exploring the willow wood, a place teeming with quiet magic. She knew the exact spot where the glow moss grew brightest, and the particular hollow where the lullaby frogs sang their most soothing tunes. She knew the night blooms, tall, luminous flowers that opened only after sunset, were usually a beacon, painting the forest floor with their soft, ethereal light. Tonight, they were merely a faint silvery sheen, almost hesitant. And the moon moths, with wings like spun starlight, usually hummed a melody so delicate it felt like a dream whisper in the air. Tonight, there was only silence. "Close your eyes now," Nana Elara said, rising from her stool. "Let the quiet of the night cradle you." She leaned down to kiss Elara's forehead, her lips soft and warm. "Dreams await, little one." Nana Elara extinguished the hearthlight, plunging the room into near darkness, save for the faint silvery glow filtering through the window from the hesitant night blooms. Elara heard the soft creak of her grandmother's own bed as she settled down. Soon the rhythmic rise and fall of Nana Elara's breathing filled the room, a comforting lullaby in itself. But Elara couldn't sleep. Her senses, usually lulled by the night's magic, felt unusually alert. She stared out the window, her brow furrowed. The faint glow of the night blooms seemed to flicker, as if struggling to stay lit. Then, she heard it. It wasn't a sound she could easily describe. It was softer than a whisper, yet it resonated deeper than any spoken word. It was a feeling, a gentle eddy in the air, a breath that wasn't wind, a sigh that carried no sorrow. It was a whisper that felt like starlight falling onto her eyelids. Curiosity, a familiar itch under her skin, propelled her out of bed. Her bare feet made no sound on the mossy floor. She crept to the window, pressing her nose against the cool, smooth wood. Outside, the willow wood was a tapestry of muted greens and blues. The air was still, yet the whisper feeling grew stronger, swirling around the ancient branches of her tree home. Then, she saw it. At first, it was just a shimmer, like heat rising from the ground on a summer's day, but in the cool night air. Then, it coalesced, not into a solid form, but into an ethereal, wavering presence. It was taller than Elara, but impossibly delicate, like a column of woven moonlight and mist. It had no discernible features, no eyes, no mouth, yet Elara felt an intense sense of presence, of knowing. Tiny motes of starlight, almost imperceptible, danced within its shimmering form. And from it emanated the whisper feeling, so soft, so pervasive, it seemed to seep into her very bones. This was it. This was the source of the unusual quiet, the reason for the fading night blooms. This was the Whis. Elara had heard whispers of the Whis in old tales, stories told around the hearth on nights when the wind howled and the treehouse groaned. They spoke of a guardian of the subtle magics, a keeper of quiet wonders, rarely seen, often felt. It was said the Whis only appeared when the balance of the world was slightly, ever so slightly, off-kilter. The Whis shimmered closer to her window, its form bending as if acknowledging her presence. The whisper feeling intensified, filling her mind not with words but with images. She saw, as if projected directly into her thoughts, the night blooms, their glow dimming. She saw the moon moths, their wings stiff and silent, unable to take flight. She saw the lullaby frogs, their throats puffed but silent, their joyous croaks held captive. And then, she saw a new image, a faint, almost invisible crack, running through the very fabric of the night sky, just above the horizon where the first hint of dawn would one day arrive. It was like a hairline fracture in a delicate porcelain cup, so subtle it could easily be missed, yet it was there, bleeding away the quiet magic of the world. Elara gasped, but no sound escaped her lips. The Whis communicated a sense of urgency, a gentle plea. It wasn't menacing, not even frightening. It was like the soft cry of a lost bird, seeking help. She looked back at Nana Elara, still asleep, her breathing deep and even. This was Elara's secret, her encounter. And the Whis needed unwind. Without hesitation, Elara pushed open the small round window. The cool night air, sweet with the scent of damp earth and distant pine, brushed against her face. The Whis pulsed, a silent invitation. "You need me?" Elara whispered, her voice barely audible, even to herself. The Whis responded with a wave of gentle affirmation, a feeling of yes that hummed through her. It shifted, its shimmering form extending a tendril of misty light, pointing towards the path that led deeper into the willow wood, away from her familiar home. A shiver of excitement, not fear, danced down Elara's spine. This was an adventure, a real one, not just a story from Nana Elara's loom. She was being called upon to help the quiet magic of her world. Carefully, Elara climbed out of the window, dropping silently onto the soft moss below. The Whis waited, its form hovering a few feet above the ground. Its light, though faint, seemed to illuminate the path just enough for Elara to see. The forest immediately felt different. The familiar rustle of leaves was absent, replaced by an eerie stillness. The vibrant life she knew seemed muted, hushed. Even the scent of the wood was fainter, as if the forest held its breath. The Whis moved ahead, a silent, shimmering guide. Elara followed, her small hand occasionally brushing against the rough bark of the trees, her eyes darting through the gloom. The path wound deeper, past ancient oaks whose branches looked like gnarled arms reaching for the sky, past patches of stardust ferns that usually glittered with captured celestial dust, but now lay dull and gray. As they walked, Elara noticed something else. The ground felt different. Usually the forest floor was a soft carpet of moss and fallen leaves, springy and yielding. Tonight it felt subtly harder, almost brittle, as if the life had been leached out of it. The Whis stopped by a clearing Elara had never seen before. Here, the trees thinned out, revealing a small pond, its surface usually a mirror for the moon and stars, now murky and still. Around the pond, rows of whisper reeds, tall, slender stalks that usually sang a soft melodic tune when the wind passed through them, stood silent and stiff. The crack in the sky which the Whis had shown her seemed to emanate from this very spot, a subtle tear in the fabric of their reality. The pond's surface, reflecting the dim light of the Whis, showed a faint, wavering ripple, not from wind, but from some unseen disturbance beneath. The Whis pulsed, sending another wave of images into Elara's mind. She saw a tiny, shimmering orb, smaller than her thumb, hidden beneath the murky waters of the pond. It was the source of the tear, a fragile knot of magic that had come undone, slowly unraveling the quiet wonders of the willow wood. This was the heart-glow orb, a legend in the old tales, said to be the very core of the forest's subtle magic, keeping the night blooms bright and the moon moths singing. To retrieve it, the Whis communicated, she would need something. Something to clear the murkiness, something to reach the orb, and something to mend the tear. The images were vague, like half-remembered dreams, but the intent was clear. Elara had a task. Elara looked at the pond, then back at the Whis. The task felt enormous, daunting. She was just a little girl. What could she do? As if sensing her doubt, the Whis shimmered again, and this time, the images were different. She saw her own hands, small but capable. She saw her curious eyes, noticing details others missed. She saw her brave heart, ready to help. The message was clear. She possessed what was needed. Elara took a deep breath, the cold night air filling her lungs. She knelt by the edge of the pond, peering into its murky depths. She couldn't see anything, not even her own reflection. "How do I clear it?" she whispered to the Whis. "What do I need?" The Whis drifted towards a patch of the silent whisper reeds. It shimmered, and then a single image formed in Elara's mind. A dewdrop. Not just any dewdrop, but a dewdrop from the tip of a star thistle, a rare thorny plant that grew only on the highest peaks, its dew said to capture the essence of a falling star. Elara remembered the star thistles. They grew on the highest crag of the Whispering Peaks, far beyond the familiar paths of the willow wood. Her Nana had warned her never to go near them, for their thorns were sharp and their magic potent. "The star thistle?" Elara asked, her voice filled with awe and a touch of trepidation. "That's so far, and they're dangerous." The Whis pulsed, a gentle reassurance. It conveyed a feeling of trust and guidance. It would lead her. Elara stood up, her gaze fixed on the distant, jagged silhouette of the Whispering Peaks, barely visible against the indigo sky. The journey would be long, and the peaks were formidable. But the thought of the night blooms fading, the moon moth silent, and the lullaby frogs mute spurred her on. The quiet magic of her world was unraveling, and she, Elara, was the only one who seemed to notice, the only one called to mend it. With a determined nod, Elara turned to the Whis. "All right," she said, her voice small but firm. "Lead the way." The Whis drifted forward, its shimmering form a beacon in the quiet, dimming forest. Elara followed, her heart pounding with a mixture of apprehension and wonder. The willow wood, usually a place of gentle comfort, now felt like the threshold of an immense and silent mystery. She was stepping out of her bedtime story and into a legend, guided by the very essence of the night's softest breath. The journey to the Whispering Peaks had begun, and with every silent step, Elara felt the subtle magic of the world clinging to her, urging her onward. The moon moth, for that was what the beacon revealed itself to be, a creature of spun moonlight and silver dust, its wings as translucent and shimmering as dew-kissed cobwebs, fluttered ahead. It moved with a silent, languid grace, its soft luminescence painting the path in ethereal hues. The willow wood, usually a familiar comfort, now transformed under the moon moth's glow. The drooping branches, which by day resembled sleepy green waterfalls, became shimmering curtains, parting to reveal paths Elara had never noticed before, paths woven from ancient roots and moss that pulsed with a faint inner light. Elara's initial apprehension slowly gave way to a breathless awe. Each step she took felt like an echo in a dream. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something subtly sweet and wild, like petrichor after a fey rain. Trees grew taller here, their boughs reaching for the stars like gnarled fingers, their leaves whispering secrets in a language only the wind understood. This was not the edge of the forest she knew, but its deep, dreaming heart. The moon moth led her further, past ancient oaks whose trunks were wider than her small bedroom, past silent pools that reflected the sky like polished obsidian mirrors. In the pools, Elara glimpsed constellations swirling in miniature, and once, the fleeting shadow of a fish with fins of pure starlight. The forest floor was not barren earth, but a tapestry of phosphorescent fungi, glowing softly like scattered jewels, and mosses that felt like velvet beneath her worn slippers. A new sound began to emerge from the profound quiet, a low, resonant hum, almost too soft to hear, that vibrated not in her ears, but in her very bones. It was the sound of the forest breathing, a vast living entity. Elara felt a strange sense of belonging, as if her own heart was now beating in rhythm with the ancient woods. She was no longer just Elara from the cottage, she was a traveler, a whisper in the night, answering a call she didn't yet fully comprehend. The moon moth paused at the edge of a small gurgling stream, its waters so clear they seemed to be made of liquid air. On the far bank, a cluster of glowing bluebells chimed softly, though no breeze stirred. Elara hesitated. The stream was too wide for her to step across, and the banks were steep and slippery. As she wondered what to do, the moon moth drifted over the water, its light intensifying, casting a silver path across the surface. Slowly, magically, ripples of moonlight solidified, forming a shimmering, translucent bridge that stretched from her feet to the bluebell glade. With a gasp of wonder, Elara stepped onto the moonlit bridge. It felt solid beneath her, cool and smooth like polished glass. She walked across, her shadow dancing like a forgotten dream on the water below. As her last foot touched the opposite bank, the bridge dissolved, its moon-spun threads returning to the stream's gentle flow. The bluebells chimed a silent welcome, their soft glow illuminating a narrow path that wound upwards, away from the deep forest floor. The trees began to thin as they ascended, their forms becoming more slender, their leaves a lighter shade of green. The air, though still cool, grew crisper, carrying the scent of pine and something else, something sharp and invigorating, like distant snow. Soon the dense canopy gave way to open sky, revealing a breathtaking vista of rolling hills, carpeted not with grass, but with shimmering, low-lying flora that pulsed with soft internal light, dream ferns unfurling like sleeping thoughts, and whisper grasses that rustled with the faintest breath of magic. The moon moth, a silent guide, now flew a little higher, its silver light a beacon against the deepening indigo of the sky. Elara could see the distant outline of the whispering peaks now, their jagged silhouettes piercing the horizon like ancient teeth. They were not mere mountains. Even from this distance, they seemed to hum with a low, resonant energy, their peaks catching the starlight and scattering it like diamond dust. As they walked, Elara noticed that the silence here was different from the forest's quiet hum. It was a listening silence, as if the very air was holding its breath, awaiting a sound, a story. She felt a growing conviction that her journey was not just to see the peaks, but to hear what they whispered, to understand the mystery that had drawn her from her bed. They continued their ascent, the path winding through fields of dream ferns that tickled her ankles with soft luminescent fronds. The ground grew rockier, leading them towards a pass between two smaller, craggy hills. As they approached, Elara felt a strange pull, a sense of immense age and watchful presence. Standing sentinel at the mouth of the pass was an enormous moss-covered stone, easily twice Elara's height. It was shaped roughly like a sleeping giant, its worn surface etched with patterns that looked like ancient runes, though Elara couldn't read them. The moon moth circled the stone once, its light momentarily flaring brighter, then settled gently on a patch of glowing moss at the stone's base. "Greetings, little one," a voice rumbled, deep and slow, seeming to come from the very earth beneath her feet. It was not a harsh voice, but one filled with the patience of centuries, like the grinding of ancient glaciers. Elara gasped, looking around wildly. There was no one else there. Who's there?" she whispered, her heart thrumming like a trapped bird. "I am the silent sentinel," the voice replied, resonating from the great stone. "And I've watched this pass since the mountains were young, and the stars still hummed their first lullabies. Few children find their way to me, fewer still are cold." Elara stared at the stone, her eyes wide. You're a talking stone?" A low, rumbling chuckle echoed. "Indeed. Or perhaps I am merely the voice of the earth, speaking through its oldest heart. You are Elara, the dream listener, are you not?" Elara nodded slowly, a shiver of wonder tracing its way down her spine. "How did you know?" "The moon moth led you. Its light is drawn to those whose hearts hum with the old magic, those who still hear the whispers of the world. And your heart, little one, sings with the very essence of stories and dreams. It is a rare and precious song in these fading times." "Fading times?" Elara asked, a knot forming in her stomach. "What do you mean?" The sentinel sighed, a sound like wind sighing through a vast cavern. "The lullaby of the stars, the ancient song that cradles all dreams and weaves all bedtime stories, grows faint. The dream currents that flow from the whispering peaks, carrying solace and wonder to the sleeping world, are weakening. The story weaver, who dwells at the very summit, has fallen silent. Her loom, which spins the threads of imagination and wonder, lies still." Elara felt a chill, deeper than the mountain air. This was the immense and silent mystery, the quiet dread that had settled over the world, even if no one else had named it. "But why? Why is it fading?" "The world has grown too loud, little one," the sentinel rumbled sadly. "Too much hurry, too much doubt, too many forgotten stories. The magic of belief, the quiet joy of wonder, these are the threads that feed the weaver's loom. When they fray, the lullaby dims." It paused. "But you, Elara, carry a spark of that belief. Your dreams are bright. Your heart is open to the magic. That is why you were called." "May." Elara's voice was barely a squeak. "What can I do? I'm just me." Sometimes, just me is exactly what is needed, the sentinel replied. A true heart, a listening ear, a voice to remind the world of its own forgotten songs. To pass this way, you must prove your connection to the lullaby. Tell me a story, Elara. A true story from your heart. A story of wonder, of magic found in the everyday. Elara's mind raced. Tell a story to a talking stone? Her bedtime stories were usually told to her, but the sentinel's gaze, though unseeing, felt kind. She thought of her quiet garden, of the moonbeam that had led her to the moon moth, of the shimmering bridge. She thought of the way the forest had revealed its hidden paths, and the bluebells that chimed without a breeze. She took a deep breath. Once, she began, her voice gaining strength as she spoke, I had a dream of a garden. It was my own garden, but in the dream, the flowers whispered secrets, and the butterflies had wings like stained glass. And when I woke up, the morning dew on the roses sparkled brighter than ever before, as if they had just heard the secrets too. She paused, then continued, emboldened. And tonight, I followed a moonbeam into the willow wood, and a moon moth led me here. It showed me a path of glowing moss, and a stream that turned moonlight into a bridge. And now, I'm talking to a giant stone that tells me the stars sing lullabies. She looked up at the sentinel. I think the world is full of magic, even if sometimes we forget to look for it. A profound stillness settled over the pass. Then the sentinel rumbled again, but this time its voice was tinged with a deep satisfaction. A beautiful story, Elara. A true story. You have reminded me of the small wonders I have seen from this spot for millennia. You may pass. As the sentinel spoke, the ancient runes etched into its surface began to glow with a soft inner luminescence, pulsating in rhythm with the beat of Elara's heart. The air around them shimmered, and the path ahead, which had seemed merely rocky and steep, now revealed itself to be a winding staircase carved from the very mountain, each step glowing faintly, beckoning her onward. Be warned, Elara. The sentinel's voice softened, growing almost melodic. The path ahead will test your courage and your belief. The whispering peaks are not merely stone, they are the heart of all stories, the source of all dreams. Their air is thin, their silence profound. You will encounter echoes of forgotten tales, and feel the weight of unspoken wishes. Look for the star lily. It will guide you to the weaver's chamber. And remember, a whispered story, a song sung from the heart, can mend even the old. Elara nodded, a newfound determination hardening her resolve. She thanked the silent sentinel, her voice filled with gratitude, and then, with the moon moth fluttering once more before her, she began to ascend the glowing staircase. The climb was steep, but each step felt light, as if the mountain itself was eager to lift her. The air grew cooler still, and the whispers of the wind became clearer, carrying fragmented melodies and snippets of forgotten languages. She passed through shimmering veils of mist that tasted of starlight, and saw wildflowers blooming in impossible crevices, their petals sparkling with frost and inner light. The whispering peaks lived up to their name. Elara began to hear voices in the wind, not threatening but faint and longing. They were like distant echoes of children's laughter, fragments of lullabies, the soft sighs of dreams just out of reach. These were the dream currents, she realized, weakened and yearning to flow freely again. As she ascended higher, the mountainsides changed. They were no longer just rock, but gleamed with crystalline formations, catching the moonlight and refracting it into a million tiny rainbows. Vines of luminous ore pulsed beneath the surface, giving the peaks a living, breathing quality. She saw waterfalls that didn't fall with water, but with streams of shimmering stardust flowing from unseen springs high above. The sound of the hum, which she had first heard in the forest, grew stronger here, a deep, resonant thrum that filled the air, the very essence of the mountain's ancient song. The moon moth, now a vibrant point of light in the deepening twilight, began to weave intricate patterns in the air, leading her towards a particularly tall, slender spire that seemed to glow with its own internal light. This was the highest of the whispering peaks, the one that touched the very stars. As they drew closer, Elara noticed something amiss. The peak, though luminous, was not shining with the steady, vibrant glow she might have expected from the source of all dreams. Instead, its light flickered, sometimes dimming to a faint pulse, then struggling to brighten again like a tired heart. The stardust waterfall that cascaded from its summit seemed to falter, its shimmering flow uneven and sparse. A profound sadness settled over Ilara. This flickering light, this weakening flow, was the physical manifestation of the fading lullaby. The magic was truly in peril. The path led her to a wide, flat ledge, a natural balcony carved into the side of the highest peak. From here, Ilara could see the entire world spread out beneath her, a vast tapestry of sleeping lands illuminated by the distant gentle glow of towns and villages. Above, the stars were impossibly bright, seeming closer than she had ever seen them. But her gaze was drawn to the center of the ledge. There, nestled amidst a cluster of glowing crystalline formations, was a single, magnificent flower. It was unlike any flower Ilara had ever seen, its petals unfurling in layers of iridescent silver and gold, glowing with a soft internal light. This must be the star lily the sentinel had spoken of. Its light, though beautiful, also flickered, mirroring the struggling glow of the peak itself. The moon moth, as if reaching its destination, spiraled down and settled gently on one of the star lily's broad, luminous leaves. The flower pulsed once, faintly, in response. Beyond the star lily, set into the sheer face of the mountain, was an archway, dark and still. It seemed to be carved from a kind of polished obsidian, utterly devoid of the mountain's usual crystalline luminescence. No light emanated from within. This must be the entrance to the story weaver's chamber. It looked silent, cold, and profoundly empty. Ilara approached the archway, her heart heavy. The silence here was not the listening silence of the pass, but a deep, sorrowful quiet, like a song long forgotten. She looked at the moon moth, then at the flickering star lily. The air was thick with unspoken stories, with dreams that struggled to form, with lullabies that had lost their way. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that the true heart of the mystery lay beyond that dark archway. The story weaver was within, and her silence was the silence of the fading magic itself. Ilara had found the door. Now, she had to find a way to open it, and to help the weaver spin her stories once more. The journey was far from over. It had only just begun its deepest, most wondrous chapter. The archway stood, an expanse of polished obsidian, not merely dark, but absorbing all light, all sound. It pulsed with a faint, almost imperceptible thrum, a silent whisper that vibrated deep within Ilara's chest. She reached out a hesitant hand, her fingers brushing the cool, smooth surface. It felt ancient, impossibly old, yet alive with a latent power. No hinges, no seams, no visible lock disturbed its flawless expanse. This was not a door to be opened by conventional means. Ilara closed her eyes, remembering the feel of the silver thread, the warmth of the forgotten lullaby that had guided her through the whisperwood. She thought of the little boy whose dreams were fraying, the children whose laughter was muted. She thought of the boundless joy a good story could bring, the comfort of a familiar tune. She focused not on the archway itself, but on the why of her journey, on the yearning for magic to return, for dreams to flourish once more. A soft melodic hum began to resonate from within her, not a sound she made, but one that seemed to awaken from the deepest part of her being. It was a melody woven from starlight and forgotten giggles, a song only the heart could truly hear. The obsidian surface of the archway rippled, not like water, but like a tapestry stirred by an unseen breeze. Threads of faint, shimmering moonlight, previously absorbed, now began to gather and swirl across its face, coalescing into intricate patterns. The patterns pulsed, grew brighter, and then with a sound like 1,000 whispers sighing in unison, the archway didn't open, but rather dissolved. It peeled back like silken curtains drawn by invisible hands, revealing not a dark void, but a path paved with stardust and nebulous light. Ilara stepped forward, her heart a drumbeat against her ribs. The air on the other side was different. It was cool, yet not cold, silent, yet filled with an expansive, almost overwhelming quietude. The very concept of sound seemed to stretch and dissipate here, leaving only an echoing sense of absence. The path she walked was not solid ground, but a shimmering walkway of collected starlight, suspended over an infinite expanse of muted cosmic dust. Above, below, and all around stretched a vast, dim chamber, its ceiling lost to the furthest reaches of imagination, its floor an abyss of forgotten possibilities. The chamber itself was a paradox. It was immense, yet felt constrained, boundless, yet suffocating. Faint, ethereal currents drifted through the space, like wisps of smoke from long-extinguished candles. These were the struggling dreams, the half-formed notions, the stories that had lost their way. They weren't vibrant. They were pale, almost translucent, like memories glimpsed through a frosted window. Elara could feel them brush past her, a faint touch of sadness, a fleeting whisper of what it could have been. Some were fragments of forgotten childhood adventures, others the faint echoes of lullabies, the melodies fractured and thin, like glass shattering in slow motion. A subtle, shimmering mist permeated the air, a soft, grayish luminescence that absorbed vibrant hues, turning them into shades of silver and pearl. It clung to everything, muting the inherent magic of the space, dulling the very fabric of existence. Elara felt a strange heaviness settle upon her, a quiet sorrow that wasn't her own, but seemed to emanate from the very walls of this place. It was the weight of unspun tales, of unwritten destinies, of unshared laughter. As she walked deeper, the path of starlight widened, leading her towards a central colossal structure that gradually resolved itself from the ethereal mist. It was the loom. The story loom. It was impossibly vast, reaching from what felt like the floor of this cosmic chamber to its unseen ceiling, dwarfing Elara with its sheer scale. Ancient and majestic, it stood as a monument to creation, yet it was utterly still, utterly silent. Its intricate framework, crafted from materials that seemed to be woven starlight and solidified dreams, was magnificent in its silent grandeur. Thousands upon thousands of threads, each one a potential story, stretched across the loom. They were strung taut, ready to be woven, yet they lay inert. These threads, which should have shimmered with every conceivable color of emotion and adventure, were dulled by the pervasive gray mist. Some were tangled into tight, unyielding knots, others frayed at their ends, dissolving into the nothingness of forgotten thought. What should have been a vibrant tapestry of existence was instead a vast muted canvas, waiting for a brush that had forgotten how to paint. The shuttles, carved from glowing moonwood and humming with latent magic, lay dormant on their rests, their work unfinished. The petals, meant to guide the ebb and flow of narrative, were still covered in a fine shimmering dust that glittered like sorrowful tears. At the very heart of this silent monumental machine, entwined within its central nexus of threads, sat the story weaver. She was not what Elara had expected. Not a grand, booming figure, nor a wizened crone, but a being of luminous fragility. The weaver was a woman, ancient beyond reckoning, yet radiating an ageless beauty that was both profound and deeply sorrowful. Her form seemed to be woven from pure light, shimmering faintly with every color imaginable, yet those colors were muted, as if seen through a veil of twilight. Her hair, a cascade of silver starlight, was interwoven with threads of dreams and memories, but these too were dull, some of them even dark and brittle. Her eyes were closed, her face serene, yet etched with a profound weariness. Her hands, delicate and long-fingered, rested upon the great central shuttle of the loom. But they were utterly still. The shimmering gray mist, the muted veil, clung to her like a second skin, obscuring her luminescence, muffling her presence. It seemed to draw the very light from her, making her almost translucent in places, as if she were slowly dissolving into the forgotten stories she could no longer spin. A faint, almost imperceptible hum emanated from her, a low, melancholy vibration that was less a sound and more a feeling. The quiet sigh of a universe holding its breath. Elara approached cautiously, her small footsteps silent on the starlight path. She stood before the weaver, her heart aching with a tenderness she hadn't known she possessed. "Story weaver?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath in the vastness. It seemed to vanish into the muted veil, absorbed without an echo. The weaver did not stir. "Nante." Her breath was shallow, almost imperceptible, a faint shimmer of light that pulsed with the rhythm of the universe's slowest heartbeat. Elara reached out, her fingers trembling, and gently touched one of the weaver's still hands. It felt cool, like moonlight, and impossibly soft. A faint spark, a tiny flicker of warmth, passed from Elara's touch into the weaver's hand. A ripple passed through the weaver's luminous form. Her eyelids fluttered, then slowly, painstakingly, opened. Her eyes, when revealed, were pools of deep cosmic indigo, filled with swirling galaxies and distant suns, but they were unfocused, clouded by the muted veil. They gazed through Elara, seeing not her, but perhaps the echoes of a million stories, a million dreams, all struggling for life. "Who are you? Huh?" The voice was a whisper, a mere wisp of sound, like wind chimes heard from a great distance. It was ancient, resonant with the memories of all time, yet fragile, almost broken. "I am Elara," she replied, her own voice gaining strength from the power of her conviction. "I've come to help you. The dreams are fading, the lullabies are lost. The world needs your stories." A faint, melancholic smile touched the weaver's lips, a brief, shimmering light in the dimness. "The world has forgotten how to dream, little one. And I can no longer remember how to spin them." Her gaze drifted to the vast, silent loom. "The threads, they are tangled. The colors, they are muted. The songs, they have fallen silent." Elara looked at the loom, at the story weaver, and then at the shimmering gray mist that clung to everything. "What is this mist?" she asked, gesturing around the chamber. The weaver's gaze, though still clouded, seemed to focus for a fleeting moment on the shimmering veil. "It is the muted veil," she whispered, her voice growing even fainter. "Born of forgotten dreams and unsaid words. It feeds on the silence, on the doubt. It grows with every story left untold, every lullaby unsung. It has wrapped itself around the loom, around my heart, and stolen the spark of imagination itself." A single luminous tear, like a falling star, tracked a path down her cheek, leaving a faint glowing trail before dissolving into the muted veil. "The spark of imagination," Elara echoed, her brow furrowed. "Where is it? Can we find it?" The weaver closed her eyes again, a deep sigh passing through her luminous form. "It has been scattered, little one, blown like dust motes across the vastness of the dreamscape, dimmed by the encroaching silence. To weave again, I need that spark. Without it, the threads remain dull, the shuttles still. Without it, the stories will remain unwritten, and the world will sleep without true dreams." Elara looked from the silent weaver to the immense, dormant loom, and then to the pervasive, muted veil. The problem was clearer now, yet no less daunting. It wasn't just a matter of opening a door or speaking a word. It was about finding the very essence of creation, the lost spark of imagination. The journey, she realized, had only just shown her its true, magnificent challenge. She had found the story weaver, but helping her would require something far greater than she had ever imagined. The deepest, most wondrous chapter of her adventure was truly just beginning. She stood before the story weaver, a figure shrouded in silent grief, the weight of the muted veil pressing down like an unseen mountain. The spark of imagination, the very essence of creation. How could one find something so ephemeral, so fundamental, yet so lost? Her heart, which had swelled with courage and purpose, now felt a flicker of doubt, a tiny chill in the warm glow of the story weaver's chamber. But then a flicker from the story weaver herself. A tremor ran through the grey robes, and a hand, pale and translucent as a wisp of dawn mist, slowly lifted. It wasn't a gesture of despair, but of direction. The story weaver's eyes, though still clouded, seemed to focus on a point beyond Lily, beyond the chamber, as if seeing through walls, through time. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer detached itself from the weaver's fingertips, like a single strand of moonlight woven from dreams. It drifted, twisting gently in the air, a whisper of silver light, before settling softly into Lily's outstretched palm. It was cool to the touch, like a dewdrop caught on a spider's silk, yet it throbbed with a faint internal luminescence. As it rested there, a fragment of an image bloomed in Lily's mind. A vast, swirling nebula of colors, not stars but countless tiny lights, each one a nascent idea, a half-formed dream. And within that nebula, a single, ancient, stone archway, overgrown with vines that pulsed with a faint, forgotten light. The image faded as quickly as it came, leaving behind only a resonance, a feeling of deep, echoing wisdom. The story weaver's hand dropped, and the pervasive silence returned, but the message was clear. This shimmering thread, This tiny spark of a clue was her guide. It hummed with a subtle pull, a gentle magnetic draw, tugging her towards a distant, unknown destination. With a deep breath, Lily clutched the silver thread, feeling its faint warmth spread through her fingers. She glanced at the story weaver, offering a silent promise, a vow to rekindle the vibrant tapestry of their world. Then she turned and stepped out of the chamber, the shimmering thread a beacon in the pervasive twilight that had settled over the once vibrant storylands. The world outside the story weaver's sanctuary felt muted, as if seen through a pane of frosted glass. Colors were dulled, sounds muffled, and the very air seemed to hold its breath. Yet, the silver thread in her hand pulsed with a quiet strength, pulling her not towards the familiar paths, but deeper into the less trodden ways of the storylands, where shadows stretched long and the echoes of forgotten tales lingered. Her path led her first through the whispering woods, a place once alive with the rustle of narrative leaves and the chirping of plot-point birds. Now, the trees stood silent, their branches bare of the vibrant story leaves that once fluttered with tales. The air was still, save for the faint, melancholic sigh of the wind through the muted foliage. The silver thread, however, seemed to brighten slightly here, as if drawing strength from the lingering remnants of stories that had once thrived. As she walked, she noticed tiny, almost invisible figures, the Dreamer sprites, once renowned for tending to the narrative flow of the woods. They were small, winged beings, barely visible motes of dust in the gloom, their usual iridescent glow dimmed to a dull, pearlescent sheen. They moved slowly, carefully, trying to coax life from the languishing story leaves, their efforts seeming almost futile. Lily felt a pang of sadness for them, for the tireless workers of imagination who were now struggling against the encroaching silence. The silver thread guided her through a tangle of ancient gnarled roots, over a stream whose waters, once sparkling with the laughter of river sprites, now flowed sluggishly, reflecting only the dull sky. She passed by hollows in trees that once housed bustling communities of Kale Tellershey, their voices weaving intricate patterns of adventure and wonder. Now they were empty, silent, save for the faint echo of what might have been a forgotten lullaby. The journey was long, but not without its own quiet magic. As she followed the thread, she found herself attuned to the subtle changes in the landscape, the way a certain patch of moss seemed to hold a memory of a brighter green, or how a single, resilient wildflower managed to push its head through the gloom, a tiny defiance against the muted veil. She learned to listen to the almost silence, discerning the faint whispers of past stories that still clung to the air, like ghosts of forgotten melodies. After what felt like an age, the whispering woods began to thin. The trees, though still muted, grew taller, their branches reaching upwards as if yearning for a light that no longer graced them. In the distance, through a shimmering haze that was not mist, but rather a distortion of light itself, she saw it, the archway from her vision. It was immense, carved from dark, ancient stone, and indeed, it was overgrown with vines that pulsed with a faint inner luminescence, like fireflies trapped beneath emerald skin. This was the vault of whispered wonder sky. The archway stood as the entrance to a colossal structure, not a building in the traditional sense, but a series of interconnected caverns and chambers carved into the heart of a mountain. Its walls seemed to shimmer with the faint residual energy of countless stories, like pages turning in an invisible book. The air here was heavy with the scent of aged parchment and forgotten dreams. As Lily approached, the silver thread in her hand pulsed more strongly, vibrating with an eager energy. The vines on the archway glowed brighter for a moment, illuminating a path into the shadowy depths beyond. She stepped through the archway, her footsteps echoing softly in the vast silence. The interior was lit by a soft, diffused glow that seemed to emanate from the very stone itself, revealing towering shelves carved directly into the rock. These shelves were not filled with books, but with ethereal containers, shimmering globes of trapped light, delicate glass vials holding curls of mist, and ancient scrolls that seemed to unroll infinitely into the cavern ceiling. Each held a story, an idea, a fragment of imagination, all currently held in a state of suspended animation by the muted veil. As she ventured deeper, the soft glow intensified, revealing a figure seated at a colossal, intricately carved desk in the center of the largest chamber. It was the librarian of Echozy, a being unlike any she had ever seen. Its form was fluid, constantly shifting, like smoke given shape, or a living tapestry woven from countless, shimmering threads of light and shadow. Sometimes it appeared as a towering owl with eyes like twin moons, then as a wise old woman with hair like spun starlight, and then as a playful, glowing moth, its wings fluttering with forgotten phrases. Yet, through all these transformations, a core essence remained, a deep, knowing intelligence that radiated calm. The librarian, currently in the form of a being resembling a very tall, slender humanoid made of shimmering, flowing script, slowly turned its head towards Lily. Its eyes, deep pools of indigo light, regarded her with an ancient, patient gaze. A sound, like the rustle of 1,000 turning pages, emanated from it, forming into a voice that was both a whisper and a thunderclap, a chorus of forgotten voices speaking in unison. A seeker, and bearing a thread from the weaver herself. You are welcome, little spark, though the library is dim, and many tales are sleeping. Lily, though awestruck, found her voice. I seek the spark of imagination, she said, holding up the silver thread. The weaver needs it, and the storylands are fading. The librarian of echoes shifted, its form rippling like water under a breeze. Ah, the spark, it murmured, a sound like a sigh escaping a forgotten epic. Many have sought it, few have understood it. It is not a single flame, child, but the very constellation of creativity itself. Its essence is scattered, fragmented into dream dropsy, each a pure, potent drop of nascent wonder. To rekindle the whole, you must gather the drops. Lily's heart sank slightly. Fragmented? That made the task even more daunting. Where do I find the first dream drop? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The librarian's form solidified, taking on the aspect of a scholar, its face etched with the wisdom of ages. The dream drops are hidden, yes, but they are also guarded, not by malice, but by the very challenges that foster their growth. To find the first, you must prove your understanding of what it means to imagine, to create, to truly, I play. The librarian gestured with a hand that shimmered with constellations of tiny letters. Before Lily, on the massive desk, appeared a single, faded scroll. It was old, its edges tattered, and the script upon it was so faint it was almost illegible. This, the librarian explained, its voice resonating with an ancient sadness, is the beginning of the ye tale of the whispering stoning. A beautiful story once, of a young artist who found inspiration in the most unlikely place, but the muted veil fell before it could be finished. Its ending was never written. Its potential, never realized. Lily peered at the scroll. She could just make out the first few lines, describing a lonely artist, a quiet village, and the discovery of a stone that seemed to hum with forgotten melodies. But then, it abruptly stopped, mid-sentence. Your task, the librarian continued, is not simply to finish it. Many could write an ending. Your task is to rekindle its spirity. You must imagine an ending so vibrant, so true to its nascent form, that it will sing once more. You must not merely write words. You must not merely write words. You must not merely write words. You must breathe life itself, and in doing so, show me that you possess the spark within you to recognize its fragments. Lily looked from the faded scroll to the shimmering librarian, then back to the blank space where the story should continue. Her imagination, usually so bright and eager, felt a little hesitant in this muted world. How could she, a child, complete a story meant for the ages, when even the story weaver herself was silenced? But then, she remembered the silver thread, still warm in her hand, a gift from the story weaver. She remembered the struggling glimmer sprites, the silent story leaves, the hope in the weaver's clouded eyes. This wasn't just a test. It was a chance to practice what she was seeking. She closed her eyes, holding the silver thread gently. She thought of the lonely artist, the humming stone. What kind of ending would truly bring joy, inspire wonder, and make the story sing? She imagined the artist, not finding fame, but finding something deeper, a connection, a purpose, a way to share the music of the stone with the world. She pictured the stone revealing not just melodies, but colors, textures, even scents, allowing the artist to create not just paintings, but entire sensory experiences. The artist wouldn't just paint a sunset. They would paint the feeling of a sunset, the warmth on the skin, the smell of evening air, the whisper of the changing light. And through this, the artist would connect with the quiet villagers, not just entertaining them, but awakening their own latent creativity, showing them the beauty hidden in their everyday lives. The village itself would begin to bloom with new, vibrant art, born from the shared inspiration. As Lily imagined, truly I felt the story unfolding, a subtle change began to happen. The silver thread in her hand began to glow more brightly, its warmth spreading up her arm. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer began to emanate from her own chest, a tiny spark of light. And then, the scroll. The faded script seemed to deepen in color, growing bolder, clearer. And in the blank space at the bottom, words began to appear, not written by her hand, but forming themselves from the very air, imbued with the vibrancy of her imagined ending. They flowed, elegant and resonant, weaving a conclusion of beauty and shared wonder, where the stone's whispers became a chorus of creative joy, transforming the quiet village into a vibrant hub of artistic expression, forever inspiring all who live there to find the magic in their own hearts. When the last word formed, the scroll glowed with a soft, warm light, then lifted gently into the air, hovering before the librarian. The librarian of echoes, now shimmering with a spectrum of soft pastel hues, regarded the scroll, then Lily. The sound like 1,000 turning pages returned, but this time it was filled with a deep, resonant approval. "You have not merely finished the tale, little spark," the librarian's voice boomed, rich with renewed feeling. "You have restored its hope, its potential. You have shown me that you understand that imagination is not just about grand adventures, but about finding the magic in the smallest moments, about sharing joy, about awakening the spark in others. You have rekindled its spirit and your own." As the librarian spoke, a delicate, tear-shaped drop of pure, shimmering light detached itself from the glowing scroll. It drifted slowly, hovering before Lily. This was the first dream drop enchanting. It was clear as crystal, yet held a kaleidoscopic swirl of colors within, like a captured nebula. It pulsed with a gentle warmth, and a faint, sweet scent, like freshly baked bread and blooming spring flowers, wafted from it. "This is the dream drop of you shared wonder," the librarian explained. "The first fragment of the spark you seek. Hold it close, for it will guide you, and its light will strengthen your path." Lily carefully cupped her hands, and the dream drop settled into her palms. It felt light as air, yet vibrated with an immense, quiet power. As it rested there, the world around her seemed to brighten, just a fraction. The muted gray of the cavern walls seemed to gain a hint of their original color, and the faint scent of aged parchment now held a subtle undercurrent of fresh ink and possibility. "Where next?" Lily asked, looking up at the librarian, her heart filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The librarian's form flowed, becoming a constellation of swirling lights, and then settled into a form resembling a smiling, whimsical face made of starlight. "The dream drop of shared wonder will lead you to its kin. It seeks companionship, and its pull will show you the way to the Gwigglebrunt of lingering laughter shy." A new image bloomed in Lily's mind, clearer this time, a swirling, vibrant maze, not of stone or hedge, but of iridescent bubbles and shimmering ribbons, echoing with a faint, delightful sound. "Be wary, little spark," the librarian cautioned, its voice now lighter, more playful. "The labyrinth of lingering laughter is a place of joy, yes, but also of illusion and distraction. It tests not your strength or your wisdom, but your ability to find genuine delight amidst playful trickery, and to hold on to your own unique sense of humor when all seems designed to lead you astray." With a final encouraging nod, the librarian faded slightly, its light becoming softer, hinting at its return to slumber. The vault of whispered wonders, though still dim, now held a warmer, more hopeful glow, thanks to the reawakened story and the presence of the dream drop. Lily carefully tucked the dream drop of shared wonder into a small, secure pouch she carried, feeling its gentle pulse against her side. The silver thread from the story weaver, which had guided her here, now seemed to merge its light with the dream drop, becoming one unified beacon. It pulled her towards the exit of the vault, towards a new path, a new challenge. Stepping back out into the storylands, she noticed the subtle change more acutely. The muted world still held its breath, but the air no longer felt quite so heavy. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer now hung in the atmosphere, like distant heat haze, hinting at the magic that was slowly returning. The dream drop guided her away from the ancient mountain, leading her through landscapes that felt increasingly whimsical, even in their muted state. She passed through fields where giant dandelions, their fluffballs dulled to gray, still held the faint memory of wishes. She crossed bridges woven from strands of moonlight that, though faded, still offered a sturdy path over chasms of forgetfulness. The journey to the labyrinth of lingering laughter was a gentle test in itself. The path became less defined, twisting and turning, sometimes seeming to loop back on itself. The muted colors of the storylands here took on a peculiar quality, almost pastel, as if struggling to bloom. The air began to hum with a faint, almost inaudible sound, a whisper of mirth, a ghost of a giggle, like wind chimes played by unseen hands. As she walked, she started to encounter creatures that were playful, even in their subdued state. Small, furry beings called audiobook gnolls would pop out from behind dull bushes, their mischievous eyes sparkling faintly, trying to trip her with invisible strings or leave pebbles in her path. They weren't malicious, merely bored, seeking any form of interaction. Lily, remembering the librarian's words, responded with gentle amusement, sidestepping their tricks with a smile, or sometimes playfully pretending to trip, eliciting a faint, almost silent chuckle from the gnolls. She realized that even in this muted world, a spark of playfulness could still bring a flicker of joy. The landscape began to shift, becoming more dreamlike. The ground underfoot felt soft, like walking on clouds of spun sugar. Trees grew in spirals, their branches adorned with leaves that looked like iridescent soap bubbles, fragile and still. The air grew thicker with the sound of phantom laughter, sometimes joyous and clear, sometimes faint and melancholic, like echoes from a happier time. Finally, she saw it. The labyrinth of lingering laughter de Mont. It wasn't a structure, but a vast, shimmering expanse that seemed to stretch to the horizon. It was a maze made entirely of light and illusion. Walls of swirling, iridescent mist shifted and swirled, forming temporary passages and misleading dead ends. Gigantic bubbles, some as big as houses, floated gently, reflecting distorted images of the muted world around them. Ribbons of light, like woven rainbows stripped of their color, drifted through the air, occasionally coalescing into fleeting, smiling faces that seemed to wink at her. The dream drop in her pouch pulsed with excitement, its light growing stronger, pulling her directly towards the shimmering entrance. The air was now filled with a chorus of soft, echoing giggles, some genuinely joyful, others tinged with a wistful sadness, like the memory of a joke half forgotten. As she stepped into the labyrinth, the illusory walls closed behind her, leaving her surrounded by the swirling mists and the phantom laughter. The path was not clear. It twisted, turned, and dissolved, reforming in new patterns. The giggle gnolls from outside were replaced by smaller, more ethereal beings, the Jew chuckle wisps, tiny motes of shimmering light that flitted through the air, darting in and out of the misty walls, their faint giggles guiding her one moment, then leading her astray the next. The labyrinth of lingering laughter was designed to bewilder, to distract, to make one lose their way not through fear, but through playful confusion. Illusions flickered into being, a path of glittering gold that led to a dead end, a delicious scent that vanished as she approached, the sudden appearance of familiar faces that melted into mist. The challenge was to keep her focus, to not be fooled by the delightful distractions, but also to not lose her sense of joy in the process. She tried to follow the strongest pulls of the dream drop, but the labyrinth seemed to delight in making that difficult. Sometimes the dream drop would pull her left, only for an illusion of a vibrant, flower-filled meadow to appear to the right, tempting her away. Other times, the phantom laughter would swell, creating a cacophony of mirth that made it hard to concentrate. Remembering the librarian's words about genuine delight, Lily decided to embrace the playfulness, but with a clear mind. When a path of glittering gold appeared, she would smile, acknowledge its beauty, but then gently test it with her foot, discerning its illusory nature before moving on. When a delicious scent wafted by, she would take a deep breath, appreciate the idea of the scent, and then gently let it go. The chuckle wisps were the trickiest. They would weave around her, their giggles growing louder, trying to make her laugh so hard she forgot her direction. But Lily found a new strategy. Instead of ignoring them, she would laugh with them, a genuine, joyful sound that surprised even herself in this muted world. Her laughter, clear and bright, seemed to resonate differently. The chuckle wisps, instead of trying to distract her, would sometimes pause, their light brightening, as if surprised and pleased by her response. One particular wisp, brighter and larger than the others, seemed to take a special interest in her. It darted ahead, then back, its giggles almost like encouragement. Lily followed it, letting her own light-heartedness guide her, trusting her instincts and the subtle pull of the dream drop. The labyrinth eventually began to thin, the illusory walls becoming less opaque, the phantom laughter less overwhelming. The path grew clearer, leading her towards a central clearing, bathed in a soft ethereal light. In the center of this clearing, nestled amidst a bed of shimmering, iridescent moss, lay another dream dropping. This one was larger than the first, and it pulsed with a vibrant, playful energy. It was shaped like a perfectly formed, shimmering bubble, filled with swirling rainbows and tiny dancing motes of light. It emitted a clear bell-like chime, almost like a suppressed giggle. This was the dream drop of joyful curiosity. As Lily approached, the large chuckle wisp that had guided her zipped ahead, circling the dream drop with excited chirps and bright, silent laughter. It was clearly its guardian, or perhaps its manifestation. Lily gently reached out, her fingers trembling with excitement. As she touched the bubble-like dream drop, it didn't burst, but rather solidified, becoming a tangible, yet still ethereal, orb of pure joy. It felt like holding a piece of sunshine and laughter in her hands. With the dream drop of joyful curiosity now safe in her possession, nestled beside the dream drop of shared wonder, the labyrinth around her seemed to sigh contentedly. The phantom laughter softened, becoming a gentle, comforting murmur. The chuckle wisps, having seen their treasure found by one worthy, began to dance around her, their lights growing brighter, their giggles more genuine and clear. The muted veil, for a brief moment, seemed to lift a fraction more in this place, revealing hints of the vibrant colors that once truly illuminated the labyrinth. The two dream drops in her pouch pulsed in unison, their combined light a warm, comforting presence. As they settled, a new fragment of an image bloomed in Lily's mind, clearer and more vivid than before. A towering crystalline tree, its branches reaching towards a sky filled not with stars, but with glimmering possibilities. And at its base, a small, shimmering pond, reflecting not the sky, but myriad, swirling constellations of nascent ideas. The journey was far from over. She had found two dream drops, but the constellation of creativity was vast. The crystalline tree beckoned, a new destination, a new challenge. The spark of imagination, though still fragmented, was slowly, steadily being gathered. With a hopeful breath, she stepped towards the crystalline trunk. As her fingers brushed its cool, smooth bark, the tree pulsed with a gentle light, and the shimmering pond began to swirl faster. From its depths, 3 more dream drops rose, delicate and radiant, drawn to the quiet strength of her spirit. They floated gracefully, settling beside the others, and with a soft, resonant hum, the spark of imagination was complete. A wave of warmth washed over the entire dreamscape, igniting every constellation, every nascent idea. She smiled, feeling the gentle hum of creation returning, a lullaby for the waking world. Now her own dreams could glow, knowing the world's imagination was safe, tucked away until morning.